He fed two starving alien children, unaware their mother was the most powerful woman in the galaxy. Arini Prime Orbital Forum looked clinical from the outside. Smooth alloy walls, repeating white light panels, nothing decorative. But up close, the lower ring was loud, crowded, and warm with the smell of cooked meat and hot spices. Vendors shouted over each other, calling out fresh Ricari flank, charred Verenroot strips, Larn fruit nectar in chilled pouches. The place felt alive and tense at the same time. Davin Rowan stepped out of Halo and Amp, Hart's kitchen door, and let it close behind him. His back ached from 10 hours of carrying trays and organizing staff, and sweat clung to the inside of his shirt. His hands still smelled faintly of grill smoke and citrus cleanser. He stood in the narrow service bay and let himself breathe. He'd taken a job 3 months ago after leaving recon service. He didn't talk about the discharge much. His therapist had called it honorable but overdue. He called it burnout. He still woke up ready to survey a perimeter, ready to count exits and angles. He no longer carried a rifle, but his mind behaved like he did. He scanned the corridor outside the restaurant. Open walkway, cold lights overhead, metal flooring with faint scratches from decades of foot traffic. Civilians moved past carrying bags, talking into wristcoms, rushing between shifts. None of this had been part of his plan. He'd come here to keep his mind busy and avoid living on military pensions. He wanted routine, nothing chaotic, nothing political. He planned to keep his head down. That intention fell apart the moment he noticed movement near a supply crate. 2 alien girls sat on the floor beside it, knees pulled close, staring at Halo and Amp. Hart's hollow menu projected above the doorway. Their small bodies looked tense, as if they were fighting the urge to stand and run. They were thin, not from long-term neglect, but from missing meals for a few days. Their clothes, shimmering shawls over thin tunics, didn't belong in the lower ring. Too refined, too clean in the way expensive fabric stays clean even when smudged. Davin felt concern tighten in his stomach. He didn't know these children, but the look in their eyes reminded him of evacuee camps. Kids who pretended not to be scared. Kids who froze when adults approached. He stepped toward them. The older girl immediately pulled her sister behind her, shoulders stiff. Her chin lifted as if she could ward off danger with posture alone. Davin crouched, lowering himself slowly so he wouldn't startle them. His knees cracked. His breath fogged slightly in the cooler walkway air. "You two eaten today?" he asked quietly. The older girl shook her head. "We're waiting for someone." He studied her face. Her jaw was tight, her hands linked in a white-knuckled grip around her sister's. She was trying too hard to look grown. "You're shivering," Davin said. "Come inside. Warm air, food, a seat. You can keep waiting there." The younger girl leaned out from behind her sister. She whispered, "We don't have credits." "I didn't ask for credits," Davin replied. He extended his hand, not pushing, not insisting, just offering. The younger girl's small fingers touched his first, hesitant and cold. The older girl hesitated longer, scanning him, reading the risk. Her eyes narrowed when she noticed the faint scar on his jaw and the military posture he couldn't hide. Something in that must-have reassured her. Discipline looked safer than chaos, because she finally took his hand and stood. Inside the restaurant, staff turned their heads. The cook frowned. The owner stepped forward, clearly ready to send them out. "Rowan," the owner said, "we're not feeding strays." "They're not strays," Davin said. "They're guests. We're not running a shelter." Davin reached the console and punched in his code before the man could say more. "Charge it to me." "You don't have the credits for this," the owner snapped. "Then give me another shift." He didn't wait for approval. He guided the girls to a corner table. The light above it flickered for a second before stabilizing. Plates arrived quickly. Seared Ricari flank strips glazed with crushed Zyron berries. Spiced meat rolls tucked into folded Corinne leaves. Crisp Verenroot wedges still steaming. Chilled fruit nectar in dented cups. The girls didn't talk. They ate fast, almost silently, each bite demanding the next. Davin stood a short distance away, arms crossed loosely, making sure no one bothered them. His body relaxed a fraction, watching them finally eat. That tiny bit of calm was interrupted by sound. a distant hiss cutting through the restaurant noise. He turned his head. The entrance lights reflected off deep green armor plates. A squad of high council security stepped through the doorway, boots hitting the metal floor in controlled rhythm. Their formation tightened as they scanned the room. Their uniforms were immaculate, dark green with black insignias that gleamed under the ceiling strips. Their hands hovered near holstered weapons, non-lethal but powerful. Davin felt a spike of alertness in his chest. His muscles locked into old habits. He shifted his weight, moved subtly to put himself between the guards and the children without drawing attention. The room went silent. The owner shrank behind the counter. A pair of diners froze mid-chew. Even the hollow sign flicker seemed to quiet. Then she entered. The woman moved with a calm, deliberate pace that drew every eye. Her emerald skin carried warm gold undertones that caught the restaurant lights. Her long white hair was braided with silver threads that glinted with each step. She wore a fitted emerald gown shaped to her body, one shoulder exposed, a platinum belt cinched around her narrow waist. A high slit revealed a toned, smooth leg as she walked. Her expression held tension under control, focused, impatient, and sharp enough to cut through the noise. The older girl saw her first. "Mother!" Her voice cracked. The younger girl dropped her utensil. The woman's composure flickered. Fear, then relief, before she regained control. She stepped quickly toward them. The guards spread out, their stances stiffening as they noticed Davin near the table. One guard grabbed his arm. "Step away from the heirs." Davin reacted on instinct. His body shifted, shielding the girls. His hand went back, pushing them behind him. "They were alone and hungry," he said. "I fed them." "Move," the guard ordered. "No." The tension in the room tightened like a rope. "Enough," the woman said, voice low. The guard released Davin immediately. She stepped closer. Her perfume carried a faint floral sharpness, clean and expensive. She studied him with precision, her eyes scanning his posture, scars, stance, like she was assessing threat level, discipline, intent. "You fed my daughters?" she asked. "Yes." "You didn't know who they were?" "No." She looked at her girls, both pressed against Davin's side, clinging to his shirt, then back at him. Her expression changed slightly, a subtle shift that softened the line of her jaw. "You shielded them from my own guards," she said. "They were scared." She exhaled, steadying herself. She crouched briefly, checking the girls, brushing hair from their faces, pressing her lips to their foreheads. She whispered something in her native tongue, private, quiet, grounding. She stood and looked at her squad. "Escort them home." Quiet route. No announcements. The girls clung to her hands, then reluctantly let the guards lead them away. Only when the restaurant doors closed again did she turn fully toward Davin. "What is your name?" she asked. "Davin Rowan." Her gaze sharpened. "Former recon?" He hesitated. "Yes." She stepped closer. "You've just placed yourself in the middle of a political nightmare," she said. She wasn't wrong. Davin felt the weight of it settle on his chest. He had planned to keep his life simple. Restaurant work, quiet nights, nothing dangerous. Instead, he had fed two hungry children and accidentally crossed paths with someone who clearly held authority far above local leadership. Her next words confirmed everything. "I need you to walk with me," she said. "Now." She didn't ask. She didn't threaten. She simply expected he would follow. And Davin, despite every instinct telling him to step back and avoid entanglement, found himself walking beside her into the corridor, aware that whatever this was, it wasn't something he could undo anymore. The corridor outside Halo and Amp. Hearth felt colder the moment the doors slid shut behind them. Foot traffic thinned as they moved into a quieter passage that connected the lower ring to the restricted lifts. The overhead lights hummed faintly, creating a steady rhythm against the metal panels lining the walls. Davin matched his pace to Saren's without thinking. He wasn't sure if following her was the smartest decision, but stepping back would have looked like guilt. He wanted clarity. He also needed to know why two children with expensive clothes and upper ring accents were alone in a lower ring walkway. Saren walked with controlled speed, her long gown brushing lightly across the floor. The scent of her perfume lingered in the air, sharp and clean. Her security squad flanked them from behind, giving them distance but maintaining a subtle perimeter. Davin broke the silence. Were the girls supposed to be anywhere near this ring? No, she said. They slipped past staff during a scheduled council dinner. He glanced at her. So they weren't targeted. If they had been, you would not have seen them sitting in public, she said, voice steady. That eased one concern, though others replaced it. He kept his focus on her tone. She didn't sound angry at the girls. She sounded tense, as if the ground beneath her had shifted. They reached a secured lift. A guard scanned a wristband over the console, and the door slid open with a soft hydraulic rush. Inside, dim lights reflected against brushed black alloy walls. Saren stepped in first. Davin entered behind her. The doors sealed. The lift began its ascent, silent except for the low vibration under their feet. Saren kept her arms relaxed at her sides, but her shoulders held firm. Davin noticed the faint tremble in one of her braids, the kind that came from adrenaline still fading. He spoke quietly. How long have you been looking for them? 2 hours, she said. They left the residence undetected. Security was searching the upper ring, the transit docks, even the diplomatic promenade. No one thought they would go down, and they didn't try to call anyone. They didn't want disciplinary reports submitted, she said. They are children. Davin nodded. He understood the logic. Children hid mistakes, even dangerous ones. The lift slowed and stopped at a private transit bay. The doors opened onto a narrow platform lined with dark alloy railings. A personal transport module waited ahead, sleek, matte black, with a single row of windows tinted from the outside. As they approached it, Saren finally looked directly at him. You shielded them without knowing who they were, she said. What? They were scared, Davin answered. Didn't matter who their parents were. Her expression shifted, almost imperceptibly. Most people in the lower ring wouldn't involve themselves in others' problems. I'm not most people, Davin said. She studied him again, reading him with clinical accuracy. Then she stepped toward the transport. A guard opened the door for her. Davin followed, taking the seat opposite her while the guards remained outside. The door shut, muting the noise of the station. The interior lights were low, warm enough to soften the hard edges of the cabin. Saren rested her hands on her knees, posture straight. Davin sat with his right foot anchored back against the seat, waiting. The transport glided forward, merging into a private track that curved through the structure's internal spine. Outside the window, the metal walls of the conduit flashed by in clean lines. Saren broke the silence first. You served in recon. Why are you working in a restaurant? He didn't answer immediately. I needed stability, something that didn't involve orders or casualties. Your discharge was voluntary. Yes. Your record was clean. How do you know that? He asked. I asked, she said simply. The transport dimmed slightly as it passed into a darker channel. Davin watched her profile. She didn't look like someone trying to intimidate him. She looked like someone used to gathering facts before forming a judgment. She continued, You didn't ask who I am. I figured you would tell me when you wanted to. She nodded once. I am Saren Ori Nareth, High Council Leader of the Orenyi Confederation. He absorbed that quietly. It matched the guards, the clothing, the authority in her voice. He had seen officers with command presence. Hers felt heavier, sharpened by years in politics. Your daughters seemed comfortable approaching the lower rings, Davin said. What? They are curious, she answered. They want to see parts of the forum that are not wrapped in protocol. I allow them freedom within reason. Today, they exceeded it. The transport leveled out, gliding through a wide tunnel lined with dull metal. The hum beneath the floor shifted pitch, settling into a quieter rhythm. Saren's gaze locked with his again. Your actions tonight will attract attention. I can handle attention, Davin said, though he felt a jolt of unease. What kind of attention? There will be questions, she said. Rumors. Some will claim you sought them out. Others will claim I owe you a debt, and that your presence is strategic. Davin frowned. What do you think? I think you acted on instinct, not motive, she said. That is rare here. He kept his voice low. What do you need from me right now? Cooperation, she said. I need your statement regarding the girls' condition when you found them. I need you under my protection until the situation is evaluated." Davin held her gaze. He didn't like the word protection, but refusing her would put him directly in the path of whoever questioned his intent. "All right," he said. "I'll cooperate." The transport slowed, preparing to dock. Saren added, "You will stay in a secured area until the discussion with the council is arranged." "Temporarily," Davin said. "Yes." The module stopped. The door slid open into a quiet landing platform lined with dark stone tiles and soft overhead lights. Saren stepped out. Davin followed, noting the shift in atmosphere. No crowds, no noise, only structured silence. Her guards waited nearby, giving her space but watching him with sharp eyes. Saren walked forward and spoke without looking back. "This is where the real complications begin." Davin followed her into the wide corridor ahead, fully aware that whatever path he had walked before tonight had already changed, and there was no simple way to return to the routine he'd planned. The corridor ahead opened into a broader passage lined with dark stone tiles and recessed lights. The air felt warmer here, quieter, as if the entire structure filtered out the noise from the lower rings. Davin followed Saren past an archway where two guards stood at attention. Neither spoke. Their eyes moved, tracking him, assessing him with the same precision he'd used on strangers during recon years. Saren slowed her pace slightly so he could walk beside her instead of behind. It wasn't an invitation. It was a correction. She didn't want the guards interpreting his position as subordinate or restrained. They reached a secured checkpoint. A scanner washed a pale green line across Saren's wristband, then drifted over Davin without pausing. Saren glanced at the guard. "He is cleared," she said. The guard stepped aside instantly. Inside, the lighting shifted again, warmer, dimmer, more controlled. The corridor opened into a reception hall with low tables, smooth stone benches, and soft woven rugs that dulled the sound of their footsteps. Davin didn't miss how the guard stayed several meters back, giving Saren space but not taking their eyes off him. Saren spoke quietly. "My daughters are already in their quarters. I was informed they are unharmed." "That's good," Davin said. They were exhausted. They ate fast, like they hadn't had a real meal in at least a day. "They refused meals when upset," Saren said. "They ran because they thought I would react harshly to their disobedience." Davin looked at her. "Would you have?" "No," she said. Her voice held an edge of regret. "But they have seen the pressure I live under. They assume discipline equals fear." They walked through another wide arch. The hall beyond was more personal. Decorative panels inset with soft green glows, subtle patterns etched into the metal walls, a scent of something floral diffused through the air. Saren's stride slowed again, as if the shift from public halls to private space changed the weight on her shoulders. A side door slid open before they reached it. A man in a dark gray suit stepped out, carrying a slim console under his arm. His posture was straight, but he looked uneasy once he saw Davin. "First Liaison Varen," Saren said. "Status. Counselor Var has already filed an inquiry," Varen said, lowering his voice. "A statement is expected by morning. They are shaping it as an unauthorized contact." Davin frowned. "You mean they think I approached the girls intentionally?" "They're choosing to think so," Varen said carefully. Saren cut in. "Varen, I will handle the narrative. Prepare a control briefing. No press access." "Yes, Council Leader." Varen gave Davin one uneasy glance before moving quickly down the hall. Saren continued forward, and Davin kept beside her. He didn't miss the tension in her jaw or the slight stiffness in her shoulders. He asked quietly, "How much trouble does this cause for you?" "Enough that I must be precise with every step," she said. "An incident involving the heirs becomes leverage for those who want to challenge my authority." Davin understood that kind of pressure. He understood the exhaustion that came from always being watched. He spoke without softening his tone. "If they want a statement, I'll give a clean one. The girls weren't harmed. They weren't hunted. They weren't coerced. They will still twist it," she said. "But your cooperation makes their position weaker." They reached a small sitting chamber. The room was furnished with low seating, soft overhead light, and a single long window of dark alloy framing the distant starfield. A tray on a low table held plates from an earlier meal. Roasted meat strips glazed with dark berry reduction, half-eaten, cooled by now. Saren stopped near the window. Her reflection faintly shone against the dark surface. Davin stood a short distance from her, letting the silence sit for a moment. She finally said, "You should understand something before we proceed. You are not under arrest. You are not a suspect. You are here because my daughters chose to trust you." "That's enough for me," Davin said. Her eyes shifted toward him. "Most would use that trust to gain something." "I'm not most," he said. A subtle breath left her. She stepped away from the window, the slit of her gown moving over her leg with each step. She approached him directly, closer than before, but not invading space. "Your record mentions you left the fleet after heavy casualty rotations," she said. "Does this situation create difficulty for you?" "It creates obligations," he said. "Not difficulty. You didn't hesitate when the guards reached for the girls. They needed a barrier, and you chose to be that barrier." Davin nodded once. She held his gaze. "Your presence in that moment changed everything. If someone else had approached them, the situation could have become far worse." He didn't answer. The truth sat quietly between them. Saren turned toward the hallway. "You will stay in a guest suite tonight. A secure one. It will not be restrictive." Davin followed her through another corridor, branching off the sitting room. The guard presence thinned here. The air felt calmer, almost private. They stopped at a door that slid open into a small but refined suite. Inside, a single bed with dark gray sheets, a low console desk, a wall panel displaying rotating environmental scenes. Quiet forests, calm oceans, dim city lights. A small tray with sealed meals rested on the desk. Roasted meat slices, a small bowl of grain, and a sealed cup of warm broth. Davin stepped inside and looked over his shoulder. Saren remained at the threshold. "Rest," she said. "A council summons will likely come in the morning. I will not allow them to drag you in without me present." Davin considered that. "You don't owe me that. I owe my daughter's safety," she said. "Tonight, you were the reason they had it." He nodded. She stepped back, and the door slid shut between them. He sat on the edge of the bed, elbows resting on his knees. The room hummed softly, temperature steady, lights warm. The sealed meal tray sat untouched on the desk. He finally opened it, steam rising from the roasted meat, the scent earthy and comforting. He ate in silence, replaying the scene in the restaurant, the guards closing in, the way the older girl had clung to his shirt. He had come to this station to escape complicated lives. Instead, he'd walked straight into one. And somewhere above this suite, two small girls were safe tonight because he'd acted without thinking. It didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a direction. Soft light filtered through the narrow wall panel when Davin opened his eyes. The suite was silent except for the low hum of the station's internal systems. He sat up slowly, rubbing the back of his neck. Sleep had come in short, uneven stretches, and the weight of yesterday still clung to him. A touchpad near the door chimed once. "Rowan," a voice said calmly. "Council Leader Saren requests your presence." Davin stood, washed his face at the small basin, and pulled on the same dark work shirt he'd worn the night before. The fabric still smelled faintly of smoke and spice from the restaurant. He didn't have uniforms anymore. This was all he owned. The door slid open. A guard waited outside, not hostile, just alert. Davin stepped into the corridor, following him through the quiet residential wing. The floor here was polished stone, and the air held a faint floral scent from the vents. The environment felt more like a diplomatic lodge than a home. As they approached the sitting chamber from the previous night, Davin heard soft voices inside. Two small ones, then Saren's calmer tone. When the guard stepped aside, Davin entered. The girl sat on a cushioned bench near the low window, dressed in fresh tunics and soft woven leggings. Their hair had been brushed clean and braided neatly. The older one saw Davin first and straightened. The younger girl brightened, sliding off the bench with a quick movement. She walked toward him with small, careful steps, as if unsure how close she was allowed to get. Davin crouched to meet her level. "Morning," he said. "Did they hurt you?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. No, he answered. I'm fine. The older girl approached next, quieter but clearly less guarded than the night before. She gave a small bow of her head, the kind children copied from adults. Thank you, she said. We didn't mean to cause everything. You didn't cause anything, Davin said. You were hungry. You needed help. Saren stood nearby, watching them. Today she wore a fitted dark green gown with long sleeves that opened at the forearms, revealing smooth emerald skin whenever she moved. Her hair had been redone, braids with thin silver strands woven through, tighter than yesterday, signaling a more formal mood. She approached the three of them. They slept only after confirming you were still in the residence, she said. Davin looked at the girls. You two all right now? Both nodded. The younger one leaned slightly against his leg before retreating back to her sister. Saren gestured toward the low table. Breakfast. A tray had been set with dishes, seared ricari meat slices, small bowls of grain porridge, and a plate of folded crepes filled with savory meat and herbs. Warm steam rose from each plate. The girls took their seats immediately, the younger one reaching for a crepe until her sister nudged her hand to wait. Saren sat across from Davin at the table. Her posture remained composed, but tiredness clung to the corners of her eyes. You will be asked to provide a factual account this morning, she said. The council expects to hear from both of us. Davin picked up a fork, turning it once in his hand before speaking. Are they trying to frame this as something deliberate? They are attempting to, Saren said. Counselor Var filed the initial inquiry. He positioned your involvement as opportunistic. Davin exhaled slowly. He wants to damage you. Yes, Saren said. And your presence gives him an angle. Davin met her eyes. Your daughters told me they were ashamed to call security because they didn't want to disappoint you. You should mention that. Saren glanced at the girls, then back at him. I will. He took a bite of the spiced meat. The texture was tender, warm, layered with charred edges. It grounded him, gave him something familiar to focus on. Saren continued. During the briefing, you will sit beside me. Not behind. Good, Davin said. Behind would imply guilt. Saren nodded, once in agreement. The girls watched them quietly while eating. When they finished, the younger one wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. Saren handed her a cloth, which she accepted with a small, embarrassed smile. A tone echoed from the wall console. Low official. Saren stood. That is the summons. The older girl held Saren's sleeve. Will he come back after? Saren looked at Davin. He will. Davin answered before she could add more. Yeah, I'll be back. The younger girl hugged him quickly around the waist, then stepped back, cheeks warm with shy embarrassment. The older one didn't hug him, but she nodded with quiet trust. Two guards approached the doorway. Saren gestured for Davin to walk with her. As they entered the corridor, she spoke low enough that only he could hear. Your military training, it is still in you. It doesn't turn off, Davin said. Good, she replied. I need someone who doesn't freeze under pressure. They walked into a larger hall with wide stone pillars. The sound of distant voices echoed through the chamber ahead. Council staff preparing the space. Davin adjusted his footing, the old instinct settling into his muscles again. Not combat readiness, just control. Saren slowed her pace slightly before entering the chamber. One more thing, she said quietly. Whatever happens in this session, you remain beside me. You step back only when I tell you. That works for me. She held his gaze for a moment, then entered the chamber. The council hall stretched wide, with tiered seats rising around a central floor. Soft green lines traced the walls, marking the 12 colonies. Delegates took their places. Conversations quieted as Saren stepped into view. Davin walked beside her, the attention of an entire political body shifting toward him in a single unified motion. Whispers rippled through the chamber. Saren didn't slow. Neither did he. The council chamber fell silent the moment Saren stepped onto the central floor with Davin beside her. The circular hall was vast, lit by indirect panels embedded high in the ceiling. Delegates in deep-colored robes filled the tiered rows, their attention fixed on the man who had fed 2 hungry children the night before. Davin's boots touched the polished stone with a steady rhythm. His posture stayed straight, shoulders level, hands relaxed at his sides. He didn't try to look confident. He simply stood like someone who wasn't going to be pushed around. Saren moved with him, close enough that the fabric of her gown brushed lightly against his arm each time she shifted her steps. Today she wore a darker green attire, more formal, tighter across the torso, long sleeves splitting at the wrist to reveal her forearms whenever she raised her hands. Her braids were pulled higher, and the silver threads woven through them caught the light like thin metal wires. Counselor Terrace stood near his seat. His posture was stiff, his white hair slicked back harshly. He watched Davin with a thin, satisfied expression, the kind a man wore when he thought he'd found a weak point. Saren stopped at the center. Davin stopped with her. A voice from the upper dais called out, "Council Leader Nareth, state the purpose of this emergency session." Saren raised her head. "A fabricated inquiry has been filed against a civilian who acted in good faith. I am here to correct it." Whispers stirred again. Var stepped forward. "This man," he said, gesturing sharply toward Davin, "approached the heirs of the Arini Confederation in a lower ring without authorization." Davin didn't shift. His jaw tightened slightly, a small sign of irritation he didn't bother hiding. Saren replied, "My daughters left their residence without escort. They were frightened, hungry, and disoriented. A civilian offered them assistance without knowing who they were." Var's voice sharpened. "That is an unverified claim." Saren turned her eyes to Davin. The signal was subtle but clear. "Speak." Davin stepped forward half a pace. "I work at Halo and Amp. Hearth. I saw two kids sitting on the floor staring at the menu. They looked like they hadn't eaten. I offered them food. I didn't touch them. I didn't follow them. They walked with me willingly." His voice carried easily across the chamber, calm, direct, without trying to appeal to sympathy. One delegate leaned forward. "Why involve yourself at all?" "Because they were shaking," Davin said. "Kids shake when they're starving. I'm not going to walk past that." The straightforwardness caused a shift in several seats. Individuals stiffening, others exchanging quiet looks. Uncomplicated honesty was not something they heard often. Var's mouth tightened. "You expect this chamber to believe you had no ulterior motive?" "I expect nothing," Davin said. "I'm telling you what happened." Saren took a step closer to him. Her presence was steady, not shielding him, but standing with him. That alone quieted the hall for a moment. She addressed the delegates. "My daughters confirmed his account in detail. Their statements match every aspect of his." Var opened his mouth again, but Saren raised a hand. "And let me be clear," she said. "If I believed for a moment that this man had intended harm, he would not be standing here beside me." The hall stilled. A second voice from the upper rows spoke, a woman in a rust-colored robe. "What explanation do the heirs give for leaving the residence?" Saren's tone softened slightly. "They feared reprimand for disobeying instructions. They avoided security because they thought it would anger me." A few delegates lowered their eyes, uncomfortable with the truth of children hiding from consequences. Saren continued. "They were not avoiding protection. They were avoiding embarrassment." Var seized on the wording, which proves they were emotionally compromised and easily manipulated. Davin almost laughed. Almost. Instead, he spoke calmly. "Manipulated kids don't sit on the floor hungry. They run. They hide. They don't stare at a menu hoping someone will notice them." More whispers spread through the chamber. Saren's gaze flicked toward Var. "The inquiry assumes intent based on no evidence. It is politically motivated and has no factual grounding." Var shifted uncomfortably but did not retreat. A senior delegate rose. His robe was deep navy trimmed with silver, signaling long tenure. "Counselor Var, do you have any proof that this man sought the heirs intentionally?" Silence. Var's jaw clenched. "No, but..." "Then withdraw the allegation," the delegate said sharply. This time, several voices murmured agreement. Var swallowed his frustration. "The inquiry is retracted." A soft chime from the upper dais marked the official record update. Saren straightened, shoulders settling. The faint tension in her eyes eased. Davin didn't miss the way she exhaled. Quiet, nearly silent, but enough to mark the end of a fight she'd been preparing for since dawn. The senior delegate addressed her again. Council Leader Nareth, will you be implementing any changes to ensure the heir's safety? Yes, Saren said, but I will do so privately. No one challenged her. The session ended with a single tone. Delegates stood and filed out, some watching Davin with curiosity, others with irritation, none with the hostility Var had hoped for. As the chamber emptied, Saren turned to Davin. Her voice lowered to something far more personal. You handle that well. I told the truth, he said. Truth is not always enough in this room, she replied. But today it was. Davin looked around the chamber. High ceilings, polished stone floors, rows of powerful people, and then back at her. What happens now? She stepped closer, her attire brushing lightly against his arm again. Now you stay where I can see you. He raised an eyebrow. Is that an order? A request, she said, and a precaution. 2 guards approached from the side entrance. Saren dismissed them with a small gesture. She kept her eyes on Davin. Come, there is something I need to show you. Her tone was calm, but there was weight behind it, something she had held back until the inquiry was settled. Davin followed her out of the chamber, fully aware that the moment she chose him publicly, the path ahead would no longer be simple or distant. It would be close and permanent. Saren led Davin through a series of hallways that grew quieter and more insulated with each turn. The council chamber's distant echoes faded behind them, replaced by controlled airflow and the soft hum of the residence district. Her steps were steady, but there was a tension in her shoulders, not fear, but a deliberate focus that didn't loosen even after winning the argument in the chamber. Davin walked beside her, adjusting his pace so neither of them had to slow or hurry. He still didn't know what she planned to show him, but he sensed it wasn't another political formality. Her tone had changed when she'd said it. Softer, more personal. They approached a tall door at the end of the corridor. Its surface was matte black alloy, etched with precise geometric patterns. A scanner pulsed once when Saren placed her hand against the panel, and the door slid open silently. The room inside was spacious, dimly lit with indirect lighting built into the floor edges. Large transparent alloy windows, thick and dark, not glass, showed the curve of the orbital structure outside. The planet below glowed in soft blues and whites. This wasn't a meeting room. It was a private retreat. A long, low table sat near the window, holding a tray of food untouched since early morning. Roasted ricari slices, skewers glazed with dark fruit paste, and a small bowl of warm, spiced broth. A corner held a shelf with old artifacts, Arini carvings, a thin ceremonial blade, a cluster of metallic rings threaded through a leather cord. The air smelled faintly of herbal oil and clean stone. Saren walked toward the window. She rested her hand on the alloy frame, letting the faint light pull across her face. Her gown caught the glow, emphasizing the line of her waist and the curve of her back. Davin approached her slowly. I'm assuming this isn't about another council meeting. Not this time, she said. He waited. Saren turned to face him fully. The shift in her posture told him the conversation had moved out of political ground and into something more vulnerable. There is something I didn't say in the chamber, she said. Something the council does not know. Davin lowered his voice. What is it? My daughters reached the lower ring because one of my staff disabled their access restrictions, she said. It was not an accident. His expression sharpened. Someone inside your residence? Yes. What? To create the situation you found them in, she said. A fabricated vulnerability. A chance to imply I am unable to protect my own heirs. Davin felt an immediate tightening in his chest. He didn't hide it. You're saying someone wanted them unsupervised and hungry. Someone expected them to panic. And someone expected the wrong person to find them first. Davin exhaled slowly. They wanted a different outcome. Yes. Saren didn't look away from him. And they almost got it. The idea that the 2 girls he'd fed were used as political tools brought a sharp, grounded anger into his muscles. Not burning, just heavy. Focused. Who, he asked. I have suspicions, not proof, she said. Var will take advantage of anything, but he is not careless enough to involve children directly. Someone lower. Someone ambitious. Someone who thought I would be too distracted to notice. She stepped closer Close enough, he could see the faint gold undertone beneath the green of her skin. The way the silver threads woven through her hair reflected the window's glow. "You need to understand why I have insisted you stay near me," Saren said. "Protection," Davin said. "Not only for you," she replied. "For them." A silence lingered between them, heavy but clear. Davin finally spoke. "You want me involved?" "Yes." "You want me as more than a witness?" "Yes." Her voice didn't shake. She wasn't hesitant. She was making a deliberate choice, one that carried political risk. Davin studied her face. She wasn't a woman who trusted lightly. She wasn't someone who allowed strangers anywhere near her daughters. But she had walked beside him publicly. She had brought him into her private space. She was telling him things no one else knew. He asked quietly, "What exactly do you want me to do?" "I want you to stay in this residence," she said. "Not as a guard, not as staff, as someone my daughters already trust." She paused. "And someone I trust enough to tell this to." Davin absorbed that. A direct position beside the most influential woman in 12 colonies wasn't a small ask. "I didn't come here looking for this," he said. "I know," she replied. "And that is why you're the only one I can ask." Before he could respond, the door at the far side of the room opened slightly. 2 small faces peeked in. The older girl stepped inside first, the younger following. Both wore soft tunics and loose leggings suitable for indoor comfort. Their expressions were hesitant but hopeful. Saren softened the moment she saw them. Her shoulders eased. "Are you finished with lessons?" she asked. "Yes," the older said. "We wanted to see," she glanced at Davin, "if he was still here." The younger girl stepped closer, feet making no sound across the woven rug. She held a small plate, thin slices of fruit and warm flatbread filled with savory meat. "This is for you," she said to Davin. "We asked the kitchen." He accepted the plate. The bread was soft, still warm, and the meat inside smelled rich with spices. "Thank you," he said. The older sister shifted slightly, her voice quieter. "We didn't mean to make things dangerous. We missed the food stalls and the lower lights." Saren's expression flickered, a gentler look passing across her features. "You should have told me. We thought you'd be angry," the younger said. "I wasn't angry," Saren said. "I was scared." Davin watched the exchange, the honesty of it, the weight of responsibility resting on Saren that no political title could soften. She wasn't just a leader. She was a mother trying to protect 2 children in a world filled with knives, disguised as protocol. The girls moved closer to Davin again. They didn't cling this time, but their nearness was deliberate. Saren saw it too. She turned back to Davin. "Stay," she said simply. "Tonight. Tomorrow. As long as necessary." Davin looked from her to the girls, then back again. "All right," he said. "I'll stay." Saren breathed out once, quietly, as if something inside her finally settled. The decision changed everything. Not in the loud political chamber. Here, in this quiet room, where a powerful woman let herself admit she needed help, and where 2 small girls waited for his answer as if it mattered more than anything else. And Davin knew, with steady certainty, that he had stepped somewhere he wasn't going to walk away from easily. Maybe he didn't want to. The hours after Davin agreed to stay passed quietly. The residence shifted into its evening rhythm. Lights dimmed to a softer tone, and the corridors cooled as the ventilation system cycled down. Servants moved discreetly through distant halls, and security presence thinned near the private wing. The girls spent time in their study room, their soft chatter carrying faintly through the walls. Saren invited Davin to sit with her in the private retreat room where they'd spoken earlier. The ambient glow from the panoramic alloy window cast a muted blue across the floor, reflecting the slow rotation of the station against the stars. The planet below was a dark mass streaked with faint bands of cloud. Saren stood near a small console, her back partly turned as she adjusted the temperature settings. Her gown tonight was different from the formal council attire. Shorter, fitted differently, made of a soft green fabric that left her arms bare and draped loosely around her hips. It was still dignified, but clearly meant for comfort inside her quarters. She looked over her shoulder at Davin. "You should know what the next few days will be like," she said. "There will be scrutiny. Even with the inquiry retracted, some will watch to see how we proceed. Davin leaned against the low table beside him, arms relaxed at his sides. I don't plan on hiding from it. She stepped toward him. The light from the window caught her features, highlighting the faint tension that still lingered in her expression. You didn't ask what you're stepping into yesterday. Not once. It wasn't the right time, he said. Is now. Yeah. Saren took a breath, positioning herself directly in front of him. If you're here, the public will assume a role for you, and they won't assume something minor. My daughters already speak of you as part of their daily life. The council sees you at my side. It is enough to create speculation, even if we give them nothing else. Davin didn't move. He kept his voice steady. I don't care about the speculation. Her eyes held his. But I do. Not because I fear it, but because it affects the stability of what I oversee and the safety of my family. Davin considered her words carefully. Then tell me what role you want me to fill. She hesitated, not from doubt, but from choosing how directly to say it. I want you close, she said. Close enough that my staff cannot question your presence, and my critics cannot twist it into something sinister. Davin watched her face as she spoke. She wasn't asking for a title. She wasn't asking for permission. She was asking for trust, an equal measure of what she was offering. He stepped forward slightly. If I stay close, it means I'm committed to all of this. Not temporarily. I know, she said. And you're sure that's what you want? Saren didn't reply immediately. Instead, she reached past him, retrieving a small device from the table. A simple metallic band with a faint green pulse along its edge. When she stepped close again, her voice dropped. This is a residence access marker. It gives you unrestricted movement through the private levels and the children's wing. Only a handful of people in this station carry one. Davin held her gaze. You're giving me full access? If you accept, she said, because with access comes responsibility. If there's another breach, I need someone who reacts the way you reacted yesterday. He took the band from her hand, feeling its smooth, warm surface. I'll take it, he said. Saren's shoulders eased, the contained tension finally loosening. The door to the retreat room slid open softly. The two girls entered, wearing matching sleep tunics, their hair unbraided from the day. The younger girl ran toward Davin and grabbed his hand. Are you staying here tonight? She asked. Yes, Davin said, if that's all right with you. She nodded quickly, gripping his hand tighter. The older sister approached Saren. Could Davin sit with us for evening meal? Saren placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. He can. The children settled at the long, low table. A steward entered briefly to place dishes for the evening meal, bowls of warm grain, roasted meat slices seasoned with herbs, and flatbread folded over soft spiced fillings. The food's aroma filled the room with a grounded, comforting warmth. Davin sat beside the girls. Saren sat across from them. There was no ceremony, no formality, just the quiet sound of the four of them sharing a meal. The girls talked softly about their lessons, the books in their study room, and the station's rotating gardens they hoped to visit. At one point, the younger girl leaned against Davin's shoulder, her eyes half closed. The older sister watched him with a thoughtful expression, as if weighing what she saw. When the meal ended and the girls were escorted to their sleeping alcove, Saren walked Davin back to the retreat room. The window lights had dimmed further, leaving only the soft interior glow between them. You handled everything today with more composure than most diplomats, Saren said. Recon trains you for worse, he said. She gave a quiet, brief smile. It shows. Davin stepped closer to her, not abruptly, but with a sincerity she didn't step away from. The air felt warmer between them, quiet in a way that invited honesty. I didn't expect to land in the center of your life this fast, he said. Neither did I, she said, but I'm not stepping back from it. He lifted a hand to her arm, touching the bare skin just above her elbow. The contact was gentle, steady. Saren drew in a breath. Not sharp, not startled, just aware. Her hand rose to his chest, fingertips resting against the fabric of his shirt as if testing whether he would withdraw. He didn't. She met his eyes. If you stay here, it will not be as an observer. I know, he said. And if this becomes something personal," she said quietly. "It will change everything." "It already did," he said. She didn't answer right away. Then she leaned in, closing the distance with slow, deliberate certainty. Their lips touched, soft, firm, unhurried. A quiet exhale left her against his mouth. Davin's hand slid gently to her waist, steady and respectful, his body leaning toward hers in controlled warmth. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't impulsive. It was a choice shared without hesitation. When she pulled back slightly, her forehead rested against his for a moment. "Stay in my wing tonight," she said. "Not in the guest suite." He nodded once. "Lead the way." Saren stepped back only enough to turn toward the inner corridor of her private chambers. Davin followed, the new marker band warm against his palm. The threshold they crossed wasn't just physical. It was the beginning of a life neither of them had planned. One built on trust, shared responsibility, and a closeness that no political pressure could undo. And because if yesterday had gone differently, I would have lost them. Davin reached up and covered her hand with his. "They're safe now. Because of you," she said. Her words weren't formal or diplomatic. They landed with the weight of someone who rarely allowed herself to speak plainly. She stepped closer, her other hand rising to his jaw. Her thumb brushed his skin. "Stay with me tonight. Not for protection, not for politics. For us." Davin slid his hand to her waist, steady and warm. "I'm here." Saren leaned in and kissed him again, slow, deepening with controlled intent rather than urgency. Her body relaxed into his, her breath warming his cheek. She guided him toward the seating platform near the window, the soft material dipping under their weight as they sat. Her lips lingered against his before she pulled back just enough to look at him closely. "This isn't a moment I intend to undo tomorrow." "I wasn't planning on walking away," he said. Her expression softened, and she rested her forehead against his for a moment. "Good." He felt the tension in her muscles start to unwind, slowly, cautiously, as if she'd been holding herself upright for years without respite. She shifted, sitting beside him with her knee touching his, one hand resting over his on the cushion. Outside the window, the orbital lights flickered across the structure as the station rotated. A soft tone echoed from a distant hallway, an alert from the children's wing. Saren stiffened for a second, then exhaled when the tone shifted to a low ripple. "It's just their sleep cycle monitor," she said. "It signals when they've settled." "You check it every night?" Davin asked. "Yes," she said. "It's the only time the house is quiet." He understood the underlying truth, how long she'd carried everything alone. Saren leaned back slightly, her shoulder brushing his. "Will you stay with them in the morning?" "They asked earlier, but I told them it depended on you." "I'll be there," Davin said, "if that's what they want." She nodded once, satisfied. "It is." For a moment they sat in calm silence, the kind that didn't need filling. She lifted the teapot from the tray and poured 2 cups, one for herself, one she handed to him. The scent was earthy and warm, steam curling gently between them. "They'll need stability after yesterday," she said. "A predictable presence." "I can do that," Davin said. Saren set her cup down. "And I will make whatever arrangements are necessary to keep you here permanently. Not as staff, not as a guest." Davin looked at her. "What does that make me?" She held his gaze with a steady, clear calm. "A part of my household, and someone whose presence cannot be disputed by anyone in the council." He absorbed that. "And you're ready for the questions that'll follow?" "They can speculate," she said. "They will not dictate my life." Her fingers slid into his, intertwining with deliberate certainty. "When I choose someone," she added quietly, "I stand beside them." Davin's hand tightened slightly around hers. "Then you're not standing alone anymore." A faint softness crossed her expression, rare, unguarded. She leaned in again, pressing her lips to his with deeper intention this time, her hand sliding to the back of his neck. Davin's arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer as the heat between them built. Slow, controlled, grounded in trust rather than impulse. When they finally separated, Saren rested her head against his shoulder, her breathing steady. "You'll stay here tonight," she said. "Beside me." Davin nodded. "I will." She rose from the seating platform, still holding his hand, and guided him toward the interior of her private chambers. Past a half-open door leading to a meditation alcove, past a small dressing room with folded ceremonial garments, until they reached a quiet sleeping chamber lit only by a soft, warm panel overhead. Saren stopped, turned to him, and spoke with calm certainty. "This is where you belong now." Davin stepped forward and pulled her gently against his chest, his hand sliding along the curve of her back. "I'm exactly where I should be," he said. And for the first time since he'd met her, Saren's guard dropped completely. She leaned into him without tension, without measure, just trust. The night that followed was quiet, intimate, and fully shared. Not rushed, not loud, but honest. Their closeness grew naturally, built on the weight of everything they'd faced together and the choice they made in that room. By the time the lights dimmed fully and the quiet hum of the residence settled around them, they were no longer two people caught in a political storm. They were a household forming, deliberately, unmistakably, and without hesitation.